Welcome back to Education on Cloud, students. Good day. So in today's Accounts Foundation class or Foundation of Accounts class, we'll be learning about the topic account groups. Account groups is very essential whether you are using the manual method of accounting or the system method of accounting. So either of the methods of accounting, whether you use system or the manual method, the knowledge of account groups is very important. So in today's class, detailedly let us learn about the account groups. So let us begin. So account groups. So under account groups, there are two categories of groups, that is the reserved groups which we find in Tally, and the other is the user defined groups in Tally. So the reserved groups means they are nothing but the predefined groups. That is, in Tally when you create a file for maintaining accounts, it is actually called as a company. So when a company is created, automatically the reserved groups are created. There are 28 reserved groups which gets automatically created when we create a company in Tally. So whether it is Tally ERP version or ERP 9 or Tally 9 version or the latest Tally Prime version. So in any of these Tally softwares, automatically when we create a company, 28 reserved groups are created automatically. So these 28 reserved groups are also called as the predefined groups. They are called as predefined groups because when we create the company, they automatically get created. And these predefined groups actually falls into the account heads which we had discussed earlier in the previous class. So whatever reserved groups is being created, it is actually created under the following account heads, that is assets, next under liabilities, or under income, or under expenses. So whatever the reserved groups gets created will fall under the following four account heads, that is assets, liabilities, income and expenses. So they are the main account heads under which the reserved groups or even the user defined groups are created. So what is an user defined group? User defined group is nothing but the groups which we create under Tally is actually called as the user defined groups. And these user defined groups also fall under the following main four account heads, that is which we discussed earlier, that is assets, liabilities, income and expenses. Let us continue. So now let us see that the reserved groups in Tally actually is classified into two categories. Which are they? That is, the first category or the first type is the reserved groups that goes into balance sheet. So whatever reserved groups which comes under balance sheet, that is one classification. The other classification is the reserved groups that goes into the profit and loss account. So these are the two main categories. So more detailedly let us learn what all are the groups which comes under this. So before this you can see here diagrammatic representation here. So the accounts is actually classified into account heads. How many account heads we have? Yes, you are right students, there are four account heads. Number one, the assets. Number two, the liabilities. Number three, the income. Then the fourth is the expenses. So these are the four main account heads. So whatever classification of accounts we have will fall under these main four account heads itself, that is assets, liabilities, income and expenses. So under these only the account groups are categorized. So as I said you, account groups are broadly classified into two categories, that is reserved groups and user defined groups. The one which is predefined or which is created as soon as we create a company in Tally is actually called as the reserved groups. The other one is the one which we users define, that is actually called as the user defined groups. Under reserved groups there are two categories as discussed earlier. One is the reserved groups that goes into balance sheet, another one is the reserved groups that goes into profit and loss account. Next, now let us discuss about the user defined groups in Tally. So in Tally, whatever the user defined groups we create will also fall under the four main account heads only. Which are the four main account heads? Yes, you are right. One is assets, the second one is liabilities, third is the income, and the fourth one is the expenses. So whatever user defined groups we define or create will also fall under the following four accounting heads, that is assets, liabilities, income and expenses. So now let us begin with the category, that is reserved groups that goes into the balance sheet. So under this, the first account group which we are going to discuss is called as capital account. So in simple terms, capital account is nothing but which holds the accounts of the investment made to start the business. That is nothing but the capital amount which is invested to start the business falls under this. So this is the primary group. It actually comes under the account head of liabilities. So under this we also have a subgroup called as capital reserves and surplus. So it is one of the example of capital account, you can say. So other examples which are very common are proprietors capital account, we have partners capital account, share capital account, members capital account, etc. So these are the money which is invested to run the business or start the business, right? Those actually comes under or falls under the account called as capital account, and capital account comes under the account head, that is liabilities. So let us continue. So the next group which we are discussing is actually called as reserves and surplus, or in other words it is called as retained earnings. So this is actually a subgroup which is defined under the capital account. So subgroup of capital account is also one of the subgroup is actually called as reserves and surplus or retained earnings. That is whatever we earn from the company, a share or a portion of amount we retain it for further development or further use. So this is actually called as reserves and surplus, or it is also known as popularly called as retained earnings. So examples under this are general reserve, capital reserve, share capital or capital investment, and share premium reserves. So these are the most common examples. Let us continue. So the next main account group which we are discussing is actually called as current assets. So current assets falls under the category or the following account head, that is assets. It is the primary group, okay, which falls under the account head assets. So in this there are 6 subgroups. So they are, first one is bank account. So the bank account of the company falls under this. Then the cash account, that is cash account of the company comes under this, cash in hand. Then we have deposits under asset side. Then we have loans and advances in asset side. Then we have stock in hand and sundry debtors. So these are the 6 subgroups under the account group called as current assets, and they come under which account head? Under assets. So let us detailedly learn what is bank account. So we will place all the ledgers, that is bank ledgers of the company under this, leaving which two? The cash credit and overdraft account. So leaving the cash credit and overdraft account, all the types of bank ledgers of the company are placed under this particular account group. Then next we have cash in hand. So cash in hand is nothing but the default ledger. This is actually a default ledger which is created automatically when the company is created. So examples of cash in hand are petty cash account, cash in branch, cash in other branch. So examples, these are the common examples. The next type we have account group is called as deposits under asset side. So example of this is nothing but the deposits like rental deposit or subscription deposit or a security deposit or an government deposit for a project or a surety. So these all comes under deposits asset sides. Then next we have the account group called as loans and advances asset sides. So we will place all the ledgers of loans which from our company is given as a loan or advance to other sources or employees is known as actually loans and advances asset sides. They all fall under this particular group. Next account group is called as stock in hand. So the goods which we are producing in our company, so that is finished goods, unfinished goods, all these types fall under this particular account group, that is ledgers of all these comes under stock in hand. Then we have sundry debtors. So sundry debtors are nothing but the ledgers who are basically our customers who buy goods from our company on credit basis. So from our company they buy goods under credit, so all those customers accounts are placed under this account group, that is the ledgers of customers are placed under sundry debtors. Next, current liabilities. So as the word tells you, current liabilities. So current liabilities, it is a main group under liabilities. So current liabilities means the liabilities which we are supposed to pay to others immediately. So this is actually called as current liabilities. So normally it contains large number of ledger accounts and subgroups under this. Basically they are divided into three types of subgroups. One is duties and taxes, second one is provision, and the third one is sundry creditors. So now let us see one by one. Duties and taxes. So duties and taxes are nothing but all the tax ledgers are placed under this particular account group called as duties and taxes. Similarly, provisions. So when you have a bad debt or some other repair, maintenance, all those things are placed under this particular account group called as provisions. So it can also contain provision for paying income tax and other taxes in futures. Next we have sundry creditors. So under this account group all the ledgers of suppliers are placed under this. That is, suppliers means those who supply the goods to our company on credit basis, they are called as the suppliers or the vendors. We place these suppliers or vendors under the account group called as sundry creditors. It falls under current liabilities. Next, one more account group we have, that is current liabilities itself. So all other ledgers of liabilities are placed under this particular account group. Example like expenses or expenses towards the employees or contribution towards ESI, employee state insurance, or towards PF or PPF or TDS, etc. are placed under this particular account group, that is also called as current liabilities. Next we have account group called as fixed assets. So whatever machinery or the assets which is being purchased for the company, like immovable properties, trademarks, patents, so all these comes under fixed assets. Similarly we have loans under liabilities. So these are nothing but the loans which the company is borrowing from other sources, that is called as the loans under liabilities. This has three subgroups, namely bank OD account. So overdraft and overcash credit account are placed under this. Then we have secured loans. So all the debentures and loans which are occurred or which are taken by the company on providing certain terms of documentation like mortgage or hypothecation, so they come under secured loans. Next we have unsecured loans. These are nothing but the loans which is taken from outside parties without any documentation, okay, or it is taken from a friend or a director or a partner of the company. So these are called as actually the unsecured loans. Next account group which we have is called as investments. So all the ledgers under investments are placed under this. Example, the government securities and investments or investments in other companies or groups are all placed under this. Similarly, the next account group which we have is actually called as branch or division. So companies branch or division or a sister concern accounts are all placed under this particular account group called as the branch or division. Let us continue. So the next account group is actually called as miscellaneous expenses asset side. So here for a limited company, so the preliminary or pre-operative or similar expenses are all placed under this miscellaneous expenses on the asset side. So if a loss is accumulated, then it falls under this particular category and they are shown as negative profit or net loss. Next account group, suspense account. So suspense account is nothing but it is a primary group which appears in the balance sheet. So we can create this suspense ledgers under this to record the money paid or received whose detail or knowledge is not correctly known. So they are placed under this. Example, we can say advance paid for traveling expenses, because only after completing the traveling the actual expenditure will come across or will come to know. So but when we give as an advance, we will not know the exact figure or amount of transaction, so they are placed under suspense account. The next reserve groups is the reserve groups which goes into the profit and loss account. So under this, the first account group which falls is called as the sales account. So all the sales accounts are sales account ledgers are placed under this account or account group. Example of this is cash sales, credit sales, sales returns, etc. Similarly, the next account group is called as direct income. So all the ledgers like professional services, charge or servicing charges are all placed under this particular account group, which is actually called as the direct income, because this is actually considered for the gross profit and loss. Next is indirect income. So in this particular account group, all non-major receipts of amount or money towards the company are placed under this. Example, sales, interest, commission, okay, dividends, etc. are all placed under this particular account group. Next is purchase account. And before going into this, the ledger accounts which are placed under indirect income actually contribute or is used for the calculation of gross profit, but it is considered only for the net profit. So this is the main difference between direct income and indirect income. The next is purchase account group. So all the ledgers related to purchase falls under this. Example, cash purchase, credit purchase, then purchase returns, all comes under this. The next account group which we are discussing is actually called as direct expenses. So here we will place all the ledger accounts of the direct expenses. Example, carriage, inwards, wages, packing charges, handling charges, etc. all comes under direct expenses. Similarly, indirect expenses, we will place all the ledgers which are considered for the calculation of net profit and loss account only. Example, administrative expenses, depreciation expenses, interest paid, employee expenses, etc. So thank you students, that's it for now. So this is how we discussed about the account groups. So in the coming classes we'll learn in Tally how to create a company. So in Tally actually a company means the file which we will use to maintain the accounts. So in the next coming class I'll teach you how to open Tally Prime application and how to create a company in it. So thank you students.